Hundreds of drivers with dozens of teams compete in multiple series with one ultimate goal: to race in the Indianapolis 500. Yet each year, only 33 dreams come true. These are the stories that make up the 33 Dreams of Indy. Welcome back to 33 Dreams of Indy. I'm your host, Robert Earl, and today I have Elliott Budzinski. Elliott, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking. Elliott joins me from Ann Arbor, Michigan, but Elliott spent the past week at the Lucas Oil Racing School Shootout in Sebring, Florida. How was that experience, Elliott?
Really, from the time you got there to the end, everything was run really well. Very professional. I think they had a lot of very good information for the people there, no matter what skill level and no matter how you did. If you were like Elijah and won the shootout, to really not placing at all, you still got to learn a lot and had a good time.
So for those that aren't maybe as familiar, the Lucas Oil Racing School is the official racing school of the Road to Indy. And actually, this was the shootout that provided a scholarship, and that scholarship allows the driver to then race in the Lucas Oil School Racing League next year. And then the winner of that, like Reese Gold has done, will be able to move into USF 2000. So to help fill in the progression, this is Neil Enerson that runs the Lucas Oil Racing School, and it was an event that was held. It was really a 3-day event at Sebring, and Elliott joins us because he finished 5th out of 27 drivers. So, Elliott, give me a little bit of your background. How did you get into open wheel racing, and how did you qualify for the school?
So, I started in go-karts from 5 years old. So I started at the local track, started moving my way up, doing nationals when I was like 11-ish, around there. And really this last year has just been learning with go-karts. We didn't really, me and my father, didn't think much of doing the shootout this year. We were aware of it, but I think a month ago, about a week or two before the last school at Sebring, we just kind of thought, why not throw caution to the wind and go and see how it goes. You know, we thought if the shootout or the school goes well, then we'd enter the shootout. And, you know, the school went really well. I think I picked up the car very quickly, even more so than I thought I would. Mm-hmm. And then I applied for the shootout, got accepted. They, you know, Gerardo, I talked to him a little bit. He said he wasn't really sure how I would do because the competition was really tough, which when we got there, that became very apparent how big the competition was. But he said it would still be worthwhile. And I think from what happened, I learned a lot. And it really was a good experience, no matter the outcome. I think 5th especially was good for me. I think I'm able to show myself up that way, as well as it was a advanced school and some sim training. So.
Fantastic. So first day that you're there walking folks through this, there was 27 drivers. They basically had you divided up by no rhyme or reason. It was just a randomness that you were broken into 3 groups of 9. And those groups basically were the ones that went out on track together. But the first day, you had a simulator session that you went through, and talking with the racing school that was there. What did you think of the simulators? Because they were actually the VR with the goggles. Was that a new experience for you?
Yeah. For me, I have a simulator at home, but it's just one big TV screen. So I didn't know what to expect from the VR. I've always looked at them and thought that they were pretty cool, but it was really cool to really be able to look around and see what you would in the actual car from a one-to-one perspective. And it was it was a little bit difficult to get used to, but it took maybe 5-6 laps, and then you really didn't notice that it was there, and was able to get on with it.
Yeah, you were used to that. So that was a great session to be able to go through. Then they pop you into a room and have you do interviews,
Yeah.
which I heard from some of them, they didn't know quite when the camera was rolling or anything, and a brand new experience for a lot of the drivers that were there.
Yeah. It was for me as well. I knew that I was going to be interviewed, and I prepared a little bit, just about a little bit of my background, but I had no clue what to expect. And being in there with the cameras, it was a new experience. I tried to just focus on Brian and having a one-on-one conversation with him. And I think that helped, but it was still, I was very nervous going into it. And I think it was quite challenging.
A little bit different when that red light goes on. And part of what I like giving back on the show is this gives you an opportunity to also hone your skills a little bit and go through an interview process, and you'll be an old hat on that. Pippa Mann presented a business class, and I heard the most were raving about that. Because of social media, I have seen the increase with the 27 drivers of their activity on social media, including yourself. So good job there, Elliott. How much work does she put into her approach, and what did you learn out of that class?
I think just listening to her, so much thought has gone into her social media, and really how that affects how you operate with companies, how you communicate with your audience, everything. I think it was very impressive hearing how much work she put into it, the different hours to post things, different like what you can do with tags, what you can do with everything. And I mean, there's too much to really say, but I think that really helped me because I've always been a little bit iffy with social media. And so hearing that reassuring what I need to do really has helped me out. And yeah, I think she did a really good job with the business presentation.
Just doing the social media over the week that I was at Sebring attending the Academy training, the Indy Lights training, the Shootout, well over 10,000 different impressions of the items that I was putting out there. And that's tangible that you'd be able to take to a sponsor and say, hey, here's where I was highlighting, here was the information was there. She really treats it as a professional, and she was there as a coach, but because she had a driver in it as well, she did not take part in the final voting, but great feedback on each one of them. And then you also had a session with PitFit. Has fitness or a focus on fitness been something, especially for a taller driver such as yourself, that needs the flexibility? Had that ever been something that you had taken to in your racing?
Yeah, for me, for about past year, maybe year and a quarter, I've been working out 3-4 times a week for about an hour. So for me, fitness has been very important over the past year, and really, I've noticed a lot of the differences that it's made. So I think for me, throughout the race, it helped me stay consistent and help my driving. But I never really trained in a way focused at racing. So I would work out, but it wouldn't be, specific to grip strength or to reaction times or to neck strength. So I'm really starting to try and put something together towards that. But working out is absolutely crucial to racing.
So then they actually turned you loose in the cars.
Yeah, surprisingly.
And in comes the fog. First day, fog. You could hardly see down the front stretch. You raced in fog. You raced in 87-degree temperatures in December, and then the final day in the rain. So before we get to the rain, that first day of getting into the car, going out in your groups of 9, what was your focus? What was that experience like?
So going out, I was in the first session, so I really had no one to gauge, nothing to gauge off of. So my focus was just to go out and stay clean, try and just build upon each lap, push a little bit harder, and really just try and gain confidence in the car before I pushed hard. And I think the session went really well. I had one off, I think, but it was an experience. The fog, the vision was very difficult. It was very hard considering it's a track that I've never done before. So I really just tried to stay careful and stay out of trouble for the first session and build upon that in the next few.
It might have helped you to not see the bumps at Sebring, just actually to be able to go through those. There was the track walk the night before. You do the session, and then you came back, and I know the 2 other groups, or at least those that were going in the third group, 2 or 3 of those drivers were really seeking out the drivers that had just gotten out of the cars, trying to get feedback. Almost were some partnerships or teams that were developed. It kind of looked like I was watching a little episode of Survivor, and there were alliances that were being built to give the feedback and be able to go through that. Next thing you know, that afternoon, it's in the upper 80s, and you're going back out. To fill folks in as well, as you're going through and doing this was not a timed, although they did have timers on the cars, was not a timed race per se. You were put out in a staggered start, and then every turn that you went through, the critical turns, sitting on top of a truck or an SUV or on top of the wall was a judge with a clipboard. Talk about the experience of after you got done with the event or the race session, and then the feedback that you did of going around to the different judges. Have you ever had that type of experience of getting that feedback?
So the way that feedback was put out is different than I've ever had before. Because I'm used to, having a coach. Braden Eves was one of my coaches in karting last year. And really, we would always focus on video and data versus, having a coach here saying what you could do in a certain corner or what to do in the different areas. But I think the way that they had that was useful. It was a little bit different, and I think it was hard to get used to, but the school that we had kind of prepared me. So going into it, I knew what to expect and really how to get the most out of it. And, by asking more questions, by really paying attention, writing down notes. And so I tried to get the maximum of what I could out of each coach.
The top 5 all took notes.
Yeah.
All were involved in asking questions. All were involved in interacting with other drivers when they came off the track. So that was something that I'll let you know something I had talked to your father about. I had a list of 7 that went into the finals, and I wasn't able to see a whole bunch of the track. I would go to different corners, was not evaluating, and many times, Elliott, to be truthful, I didn't even know what car you were in or someone else was in, because they put you in the banana colored car or the red car or the green car, and unless a parent told me, hey, my son or daughter's in that car, I really didn't know. So I was going by how people were carrying themselves, how they were interacting, and how professional they were acting. And of the 7 I had listed, 4 of the top 5 were on that list. So I was surprised on one of them, or really didn't have an opportunity to interact with one. So that's something very important to see that. And as I follow USF 2000 and the other series, those that are making notes and getting the feedback do the best on it. So 87 degrees was the top temperature. And then the very next day, finals day, when you've been sleeping on it, when you're nervous, and there was that slight mist and drizzle, and then it just built throughout the entire day. What was it like racing in the rain?
I really enjoyed it. Ever since, I don't know, since I was in cadet, very young days in go-karting, I've always loved racing in the rain. So, you know, when I put my helmet on for the first session and saw the rain just sprinkling down on my visor, I got a bit excited. Some weren't as happy as others, but to me, rain has always been a strong suit and something that I've always really enjoyed. So when I saw that rain, I was jumping.
He had a big smile. I'll tell you that when I saw him heading towards the car for the second session, particularly.
Yeah. But it was challenging because the first session we did overall wasn't, I wasn't that comfortable, so I couldn't really gauge off of it. So I had to go completely, blind into it once again. Mm-hmm. But I felt very comfortable from the second and third sessions on, I think it was Wednesday, maybe. Mm-hmm. I think it was Wednesday. And so I just went in and, tried to push a little bit. If I went over the limit, back everything up. And it was really fun. Driving those cars, especially in the rain, was a huge blast.
They were something else, and there were some that had offs, and but it was all in all a very clean session. You could tell a lot by people or the drivers when they got out of the cars as to the look on their face. Did they look like they were wide-eyed, or did they have a smile on their face of how they've done it? So now you've had an opportunity to make your way back up to Michigan, put all your summer clothes back away, and deal with the weather. Yeah, I'm going to rub it in a little bit. So you talked about fitness. What has changed? What is going to change in your approach towards racing in the upcoming season?
I think what's going to change in my approach is obviously I'm trying to put together something for fitness that's more racing focused. So there's still a lot of the strength and endurance that I did before, but stuff specific to racing, such as reactions, grip strength, because that's not one that's usually, used in, or at least there's not really many common workouts for it. But also I think my approach to how I go about myself around, team owners, sponsors, the way that I'm going to approach people, I think that's been the biggest eye opener for me, because I went into it preparing a little bit on how to speak, but didn't realize how big the off track involvement was going to be. So I think that's going to be the biggest change in my approach for next year.
Fantastic. Any thoughts on direction? You're still going to be doing some karting, open to some of the events with the Lucas Oil Racing School or other open wheel opportunities?
Yeah, I think karting is still gonna stay on the schedule for next year. But I think we're gonna try. Me and my father are gonna try and make it to at least one or two of the Lucas Oil races and see how that goes. And if it goes well, try and scrape some money together to get a season going. Because I think that's the next step for me and a lot of other drivers, is the Lucas Oil Racing School.
Great opportunity and a great leapfrog, and then also into that the 1600s and of course the progressions that go on there. So Elliott, you're now on the road to Indy with the participation in this, and I want you to dream with me a little bit. What would it be like to start and participate in an Indy 500?
I don't really think it's something that you can really imagine. I think a lot of emotion would be had, and I think it would be a really incredible opportunity, but I don't think that you'd truly be able to know what it's like until you're on the grid with 200,000 people, I think it is, and just the whole atmosphere would just be incredible.
I always say I'm hanging out with 300,000 of my closest friends as we do this. I would say from a coaching and performance aspect of it, not only with the fitness, and I'm sure Braden Eves has probably touched upon this with you a little bit. The ability to replicate those emotions, the ability to replicate that feeling of, you felt it when you went into an interview, and now when you sat down to do this talk with me, it's not as nerve-wracking because you've gone through those emotions before. Those drivers that are able to handle that. Now, I'm not saying, Elio's all hyped up when he gets ready to go in the car. We've seen him dancing and moving around. But that ability to slow it down, we talk about quarterbacks that go from college to pros, that ability to slow it down and replicate. It'll be interesting to see in the next 10 years how sim does that, or how, and I don't think, you can't replace seat time, but also outside of the car. The more times you can put yourself in a position where you're feeling uncomfortable and can replicate that, those will be the drivers that are prepared to face the 4-lap qualifying and go into the race. But Elliott, you impressed me when you were there. The support that your father gives you is fantastic. Are there any other sponsors that you'd like to give a shout out to that are helping you along the way or have helped you in the past season?
Well, obviously my father, my mother, everybody within my family has showed huge support. All my friends have given a lot of support. Everybody at the Lucas Oil School, and as well as all the SCUSA workers for all the work they did in karting. Braden Eves has helped a tremendous amount as developing me as a driver over the last year. And I'm sure there are other people that I'm not remembering, but those are really a lot of more influential people that have helped me along.
Yeah, and Cooper Tire was very involved with that event and involved with the entire Road to Indy series, and I always like to give them a shout out while I can because they're involved with that. Well, Elliott, again, very impressive with your approach. We're going to be keeping track from afar. Look for you to be in a USF 2000 car in the next couple of years. I'm planting that seed in the universe for you so that it goes through, and continue to work. We'll stay in touch, and if you are in one of those Lucas events, then I'd love to follow up with you in the upcoming season and just do a little check-in, because I don't think that the regular media goes down and covers these events quite as much, and it's what I like to do is tell the stories, and you've got a real good one there with your 5th place finish in the shootout.
Yeah, it was great talking to you, and I would love to catch up another time further on in the season. So
will do. I'm also going to have a episode with the winner of the shootout. We're going to be recording that here in the upcoming week, so stay tuned for that as well. And until next time, Elliott, you have a fantastic holiday season, and to all the rest of you, keep dreaming.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Hope you enjoyed this video from 33 Dreams of Indy. It would mean the world to me if you would click subscribe so that you could be notified of any new videos that come along.